Hi friends, welcome to Raven Inked Alchemy Atelier. And in my introduction, I mentioned that I was taking part in an art class. So today I wanted to show you the tools that I use for this class. I have decided that I wanted to use watercolor. I previously bought some watercolor materials and that is what I had, and I did not want to purchase different medium. So in this case I said I just wanted to continue with watercolor. I did have to make some significant investments in some tools simply because I did not have the range of items that I needed. So here are the things that I have and that I would recommend to anyone to get when they're starting their watercolor journey. Especially, it's not easy to get the media in the stores. Sometimes you may have to purchase it online or make some decisions if it is worth the cost. So let's get into it. So first up is getting a good watercolor pad. Now this is only if it is that you are doing artwork for the purpose of selling it or serious artwork. If you're starting out, a good sketchbook is fine, a mixed media piece is fine, but when it is that you start to put down the water and the pigments, you want it to stay and you don't want the paper to buckle. So in this case, getting a good watercolor pad is an investment. Now this is the size of it. It's almost the size of a letter size paper. It is 300 GSM, so it's going to be very absorbent in nature to that water and pigments. It's acid free, heavyweight, cold press, and more than likely I believe this is cotton. So this is the watercolor pad, and you can see that there is a bit of roughness on this side and it's a bit smoother on the back of it. So here is basically the media that you're going to work with. Now you need to be able to figure out what is the gradient of this paper. So for me, I realized the gradient was this way and this way was perpendicular. So when it is that you put down brush strokes, you might find easier motion this way, whereas this way you might find a bit of resistance. This is also important because if it is you want to tape off your piece or to create a border or to create segments, knowing the gradient of the paper is going to tell you which direction to pull the washi tape off so you don't rip it. So if you try to pull it this way, it's going to rip, but if you pull it this way along the gradient of the paper, which goes horizontal, it means then that you will be able to get it off easier. This is also important because once you try to put brush strokes this way, you are going to face some resistance. You might see some white spots collecting in the paper. Where the ink is supposed to go, you just have to go back in and individually fill those spots. So that's an important thing to note while you are using your paper. So this has a perforated top here, so it's easy for me to rip out and cut accordingly with my cutting device. So up next is this mechanical pencil. You can use a normal pencil, but I like having a very fine point to work with, and I believe this is a 0.5 millimeter, yeah, and an eraser. So I prefer this eraser where I just have to twist and it comes out. It gives me better control and grip to erase, and it gives me a very fine surface to work with if it is I want to erase smaller things. So I've had these for a while, and these are what I would recommend to get, because this is what you're going to lay your sketch down with before you paint anything. This one is not necessarily a must-have. These are an assortment of drawing pencils, but if it is that you are dabbling in sketching, you can invest in one of these, because the different hardness is represented here. So H represents hardness, fine, and B would be the softest. So if it is you want something very soft and dark, this is going to be your 8B, and you will be able to get those, you know, your shadows, cross hatching, etc., whatever it is that you need. And this one gives you an idea of what this looks like a sort of swatch. But I feel like I want to do a video with a swatch for this one specifically. This is just a washi tape that I use. It's a small washi tape, and if it is that I want something finer, I would just cut it in half and use it. But sometimes I use masking tape, but the idea is just to show you that any tape can work. And here we have these watercolor brushes. I believe I have 3 thickness of brushes, so this is fine. This is medium, and this one is large. So the idea for these is for it to be for it to be mobile, simply because I have 3 sizes of brushes, and I would have water in these reservoirs here, and I would just press down or squeeze to allow the water to come out, so we are able to get our wash or our pigment. And if it is that you don't want any water in it, you could simply just use the brushes for normal use. This is a good investment to make because of its versatility, especially if it is that you want to paint on the go, or you don't want to haul all of your brushes to where it is that you are going to paint. I was not able to get this back in store. I believe it had a few of them when I got it. These are not necessarily watercolor brushes. However, I did get a variety of brushes that I'm able to use, and you know, fan brushes, rounded edges brushes, round brushes, these blunt edges, slanted edges, round brushes of different size. I believe this also came with palette knives. So the idea is that there is a variety of things that this offers that most assorted brush pack didn't. So this is something that I would recommend if it is that you want to get an assortment of brushes. Now this is a dropper. It seems insignificant, but when you have your reservoir of water, you know, clean water, you can scoop up some and put it in your watercolor pans to activate it. And I like this over the spray bottle because it allows me to add more water as necessary than a spray bottle when activating the watercolor pigments. So these are liner pens or markers, whatever you want to call them, but basically the idea is that these are waterproof. So you don't necessarily have to use this brand, but you should get something that is waterproof. So I bought this one because my normal pens aren't waterproof, and these here are the different thickness of the points. So according to what you need for your sketch, this is the tip marker that you would use, and here would be the 6 of them in this little cute casing. And I believe the casing also doubles as a stand, you know, for you to use your pencils, your pigment liners with. So this is a really handy thing to have. I didn't realize that this was a thing, but this is watercolor pencils. So they're quite different from normal colored pencils because they activated with water and can work as watercolor paints would. I got this assorted pack simply because I have issues with my hands, like, you know, dexterity and stuff. So I like the idea of this opening from the sides and can be a stand as well, whereas you saw that I struggled a bit with the pan setup for the graphite pencils. So this is a nice, easier tool for me to use, and this is what I got, and I believe this is a triangular shape, so it's quite ergonomic for you to hold as well. This is the shape of the pencil, so it's a really handy tool. Now if it is that you lay your pigment down and you want to get some fine details, you can draw the veins of leaves or add shadows, or maybe even add wave elements or landmark elements, etc. to your painting. When it is you lay the pigment down, this is a good tool to have to really elevate the fine details of that. It's always good to have a scissors around or a cutting device. So I do have different types of cutting devices, but I'm just showing you the scissors today because it's most accessible. Next up, we have this watercolor palette. It looks like a makeup palette, and I was really enamored with this pigments, and I will do a separate video swatching them. They're really fun colors to work with. It is a bit chalky in nature when it's dried, so I like having this because it means it's going to dry quicker, and the likelihood of it getting mold is very, very low because of this chalkiness. And these are highly pigmented, so I noticed that they were able to layer on top of other colors and give that same vibrancy of these like very bright colors. So this is one of the ones that you can work with because it's 48 colors and it's a bit more variety than a 12 set. So this is my 12 set. I bought this I believe last year, and this was supposed to be like a student grade pan of paints, and it's 12 colors. So these are the tubes with the basic 12s that most people would use, and I just have them in this really cute box so they're easy to access. I believe these are the oldest watercolor paints that I have. I picked them up to try out many years ago, so you can see that most of them have been used. They are very old and dried, so it's really hard to squeeze out. So what I did was I put these in a pan, and I would show you what that pan looks like now. This is the pan. It allows me to have a mixing space as well, so I use the lid and both sides of this to give me a palette for mixing, and then here would be the 12 paints that I've tubed out. You can see that some of them came out flat and nice, some of them remain in the tubing format, and basically these are highly pigmented. As you can see, they are very dark, vibrant colors. So I did not, even though they're very old, they still work perfectly fine. They're amazing, and I love working with this in combination with the other two sets of paints that I've shown. So this is very useful, especially if I'm working outside and I don't want to have a lot of clutter, and because it closes quite easily, it's easy to just slip into my backpack and take outside with me. This is a strange one, but watercolor takes some time to dry, so investing in a mini fan like this with different speeds, it's a good thing. It also has a stand that you can stand it up vertically like this. This is the charging cord, and I'm able to carry this with me and dry my pieces, sometimes even if I am home, and this is my go-to for drying my pieces that I've tried. So the class that I'm taking requires us to do a portfolio. Now this is the portfolio that is used in secondary schools for visual arts, and I saw this. It was on sale. I would not have bought it unless it was on sale. and I decided that I can have it for any time that I want to showcase any of my pieces or of create a work that is for me, simply because the portfolio that I've chosen to do is quite different from this. So here you would see that you can write your journal and have your reflection, and then most of the pages allow for you to put your piece here, a short description, and then to the back there's space for you to use. And I believe there's also a table, so this is like talking about your artwork, and then there's a table of contents. So this is quite handy if it is that you want to keep all of your things together to showcase afterwards in a small portfolio. This is always a good idea to invest in, unless it is that you just want to showcase your sketchbook. And that's it really. Let me know what is your favorite piece, or comment and let me know what pieces that you like to work with in terms of all of the materials that I have. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to upgrade eventually and get more different pieces, simply because more products are always on the market and you always want to try new things. So thanks for watching.